Hello YouTube, Onyx here. Last time I did a team challenge was actually back in Generation 1 where I used Ash's uninvolved team to attempt to beat the game. Go and check it out if you haven't seen it already. On today's challenge, let's find out if I can beat Pokemon Crystal as a Gen 2 bug catcher. Now before we get onto the rules of this challenge, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to hitting 100 subscribers. Thanks for your support guys, it's really appreciated and I've tried to do something a little bit different with this challenge. Rules are only bug types in battle. HM Pokemon are allowed but not in battles. There will be no items in battle and there will also be no hold items in battle. So let's attempt this challenge. We begin this Gen 2 bug only challenge on Route 30. We wait till the dead of night to encounter ourselves a male Spinarak. I wonder what his name is going to be. Anyway, we use Gator to lower his health down and eventually catch it with a Pokeball. The base stats for Spinarak are all round pretty well, apart from speed being the lowest and attack being the greatest. His move pool is also well rounded, so I'm not worried about using this little fella. And the name will be Arantula the Tarantula. He is also a YouTuber, go and check him out, links will be in the description. Now, the same place, Route 30, we find ourselves a Ladybar, and it's a female by any chance. And we catch it, and the base stats for that are better than Spinarak, apart from the special defense being greater and attack being lower. Now the moves on it aren't the greatest, I wouldn't say, but we can learn a few moves later on. And the name for that will be Grand Gaming Guild. That's right, Grand Gaming Guild, your secret's out. You are a ladybird. Anyway, we head over to the Sprout Tower Sage, where we've done some training up now, and we start off with Arantula, as you can take down the Spell Sprouts pretty easily with Poison Sting, and we gain another level up. We now switch over to the Grand Gaming Guild, to find out what he can do. Unfortunately at this moment in time he hasn't got very many good moves, only knowing Supersonic. As we test here, Supersonic is very inaccurate for some reason against this Bellsprout, so eventually I give up and just go for Tackle. The amount of Supersonics I used, I probably could have just taken down the Bellsprout with Tackle, but it didn't go that way. Anyway, eventually we will whittle its health down, and Grand Gaming Guild should also receive himself a level up and hopefully some better moves eventually. Anyway, we get to level 10 and it's now time for the Hoot Hoot, which we are going to go for a Supersonic, but no surprise there, it's not going to hit. But it does actually hit on its second one. Great. We now go for some tackles, hoping that it will hit itself, but it just keeps breaking through and using tackle. Now I don't want Grand Gaming Guild to die at this point, so we switch back over to Arantula, where the Hoot Hoot now decides to hit itself, funnily enough. Anyway, eventually we use a few more Poison Stings to take down the Sage. With that victory, we're now ready to take on Violet City's gym leader Falkner, after we took down his cronies and gained a few levels up as well. So, Pidgeot comes out, which we use Arantula for, as Poison Sting doesn't do too bad damage at this stage. He also got poisoned, so that was pretty lucky. Now, his problem was the Pidgeotto, so we want to save Arantula at this point. We switch over to Grand Gaming Guild to take a hit. He also uses Supersonic, which is what we wanted. We go for a tackle and he hits himself. Grand Gaming Guild goes down, so we switch back over to Arantula as Poison Sting hits him again, and also he hits himself from Confusion. This is basically what we needed. If he would have got his consecutive gusts in, we would have died, but luckily we managed to do it and we gained our first badge. After that victory, we head over to Azalea Town to face Boogie, the second gym leader. It hopefully will be a little bit easier as we know a few more moves now. So, Metapod comes out and we hit it with Nightshade. He uses Harden and String Shot, which is not too much of an issue. We eventually take it down with a Nightshade. Now for his Kakuna, which can do a little bit of damage with Poison Sting, which is why I keep Arantula out, as he is resistant to poison, and I don't think he will get poisoned as well, which is good. So eventually we take it down with Nightshade, and we also gain another level up. Now it's time for the Grand Gaming Guild's attempt on his Cypher. We go for a Supersonic, which luckily makes him confused, and he hits himself. And then we go for a Comet Punch, which isn't that accurate and also hits between 2 and 5 I believe, but doesn't do that much damage. So we switch over to a Tackle, and then we switch back to a Comet Punch, hoping that we can eventually take it down. But unfortunately, Quick Attack from Cypher takes down the Grand Gaming Guild. So we head back to Arantula to finish it off with one Nightshade, and we've earned our second badge. As we attempt to leave town, our rival decides to pick a fight with us. He brings out his Ghastly, which at this point isn't too much of an issue, as we know Nightshade, but he does put us to sleep with a Hypnosis, which is okay because he's only going to use Lick, which is not very effective and it won't paralyze as well. We wake up and take it down with 2 Nightshades. We also gain another level up. We now switch back over to the Grand Gaming Guild, which we go for a Supersonic, which misses unfortunately as he hits us. Our second attempt of that manages to hit it, and then he hits himself. We then go for a Comet Punch, which misses. which is annoying, but he hits himself. We miss again as he uses Bite on us. We then go for another Comet Punch as we break out, and we manage to hit it. I'm going to be looking forward to when we make it to the next city, as we do get some more TMs. Anyway, we eventually take down his Zubat with a tackle. Then we move over back to Tarantula for his Bayleaf, as we're going to go for a Poison Sting, because I thought that would be a bit super effective. It didn't hit that heavy, but we still go for it to get a poison. And then we move over to use the move Nightshade, as I think that will do some more damage. Eventually we take it down with Nightshade, and that's the end of our first rival battle. We can now head to Elect Forest to find ourselves a Pinko. We learn the headbutt move to Grand Gaming Guild, as I know he likes to headbutt trees in his spare time. Don't ask me why. Anyway, eventually we will whittle down this guy's health and catch it with a Great Ball, and then we'll check out what the new name will be and the stats. Anyway, the first Great Ball fails, the second Great Ball does get it, as we were having a few issues with this Pinecone. Anyway, now for its base stats, which overall are pretty good, defense being great, speed not so much. His move pool as well will be handy, although it's quite limiting, but I've got an idea of how to use this guy. Anyway, we name it Trippy Trainer, which again, this guy is a YouTuber, that there will be links in the description, so go and check him out. I did actually spell his name wrong on the Pokemon, as you can see, but I didn't notice it till it was too late, and I can't change it till a next area. Anyway, we then go to Route 35 to find the last member of the team, which is Yanamast, out of the 4, speed being the greatest and the other stats being alright. It's also got a well-rounded move pool. And the final member of the team's name is Proxify. He's also a YouTuber, so links will be in the description as well, check him out. So, we're now ready for Goldenrod City Gym Leader's Whitney, and Grand Gaming Guild's going to take the lead with his new moves, but unfortunately he keeps getting slapped to death, and eventually he does lose. So Proxify comes out and revenges him with a quick attack, and that's the end of the Clefairy. Now it's time for Milk Tank, which we go for Trippy Trainer, which we use a headbutt on that as well, as I thought I would buy headbutt for Trippy Trainer as well. Unfortunately we are now in love with it as well, which could be an issue as we get hit by Rollout. So just to save the problems, we use Self-Destruct, and then we head over to our Tarantula to get a Poison Sting in. Gets poisoned, but we get taken out with a rollout, and now it's time for Proxify again to reap the benefits of the team, and we've earned ourselves the 3rd badge. Right after that, Grand Gaming Guild needed to let some frustration out and decided to take on a tree again. He goes for an Ice Punch but gets taken out with a Rock Throw. He should have known better really. Anyway, Tarantula comes out and uses Nightshade to do some better damage as the tree uses some low kicks, and then goes for a Mimic, and then a final Nightshade takes down. After which we head over to Tin Tower, where we encounter our rival again, who's looking for some legendaries, I believe. He brings out his Haunter as we go for a Tarantula. He licks us, which paralyzes us, but we get our Nightshade in. We go for another Nightshade as he locks us in with Mean Look. Eventually our final Nightshade hits, and we take him down. And we can learn a new move, Leech Life, which I do decide to learn, as I think it will be handy a little bit later. Now for his Magnemite, which again we go for Nightshade to lower his health down, as he then confuses us, which isn't looking good for a Tarantula, but we get our second Nightshade in, and that takes down his Magnemite. We're now ready to switch over to Trippy Trainer to go for a Headbutt. As he confuses us with Confuse Ray, we hit ourselves unfortunately. Then uses Bite, but we get our Headbutt in. Goes for another Confuse Ray, as we must have broken out of it. We get our second Headbutt in, and eventually we hit ourselves again. He uses Bite, and we unfortunately take ourselves down. So Grand Gaming comes out to finish it off with a Thunder Punch. Now for his Bayleaf, which we go for Proxify. We go for a Headbutt at this point to do some more damage, but it didn't go for a flinch. We then use a Sonic Boom, which again I was just trying to work out which one was better. Seemed like Sonic Boom was working better for me, but we then go for a couple of quick attacks to finish off our rival again. Usually I like to train up a little bit more before we go and face the Etrex City's Morty Gym Leader, but in this case I wanted to try and do it in a more unique style, as I thought I had an idea to take it down. Anyway, we go with Grand Gaming Guild on his first Ghastly, which uses 2 Thunder Punches to take that down. Now for his Haunter we switch over to Trippy Trainer, as we do have a move to use, but Self-Destruct doesn't actually work. So he uses Curse, which is one thing we wanted to do, as we go for Protect, as I didn't know what move he was going to use, and I just wanted to see what he had. Also, effectively, I wanted him to use Curse to take some of his health down. We then go for a double team as he uses curse again, so we can then switch over again as the curse effects aren't happening on us. He hits Trippy Trainer with a Nightshade, those switch back to Proxify to take that off the curse, and then we go back to Trippy Trainer as I thought maybe he would use curse again. I was basically just trying to use these Pokemon as I didn't have any moves for him yet that could physically attack him, so I wanted them to attack themselves, but it didn't seem to work in the end. So then we just switch back over to Grand Gaming Guild to use a Thunder Punch to take down his Haunter. So now it's time for his Gengar, which was the main issue. Obviously, he takes down Grand Gaming Guild with a Shadow Ball. We switch over to a Tarantula, which we go for Nightshade because it's the strongest move we had. Luckily, he is missing with Hypnosis. If he was to hit us with Hypnosis, it would be over, but luckily he missed 3 consecutive times. Now for his final Haunter, which I didn't actually know Curse, and also used a Mean Look on us to trap Proxify in. Now Proxify hasn't got any moves that can attack Haunter, so now it's just a waiting game. So I basically use all the double teams to obviously get max evasiveness, and then he uses Spite and things like that. I was kind of thinking maybe I'd have to use all my PP to get to struggle, so I was just using whatever I had as he uses Mimic. I wanted him to mimic something, so maybe he could hit me, but also I wanted to do the double teams as well, just in case I did max out and take all the PPs off and then got to struggle, because I know struggles can hit ghosts in Gen 2. So eventually I think he mimics Quick Attack, so he will start doing some damage against us when he uses Quick Attack or Nightshade. Hits Proxify. I think what I actually got to him to do in the end was run out of his Nightshade and run out of his powerful moves like that. So when he does take down Proxify, we can just go in with a Tarantula or someone that can actually hit him, which is a Tarantula, and take it down. So eventually, he eventually takes down Proxify with Quick Attack. We move over to a Tarantula to use a Nightshade, as he's now using Quick Attacks as well, which isn't too much of an issue for us as that doesn't seem to do that much damage. Uses a Mean Look and a Spike, and then we finish it off with a final Nightshade, and we've earned our 4th badge. Now, before we go and face the Seonwood City's gym leader Chuck, we go and find the legendary dog Suicune, which this gentleman is following us, so we're going to have to fight him first. Now, his Drowsy is a problem, but how we have to come around this is we need his Hypnosis to miss, so we can then get a Self-Destruct in to take that out, as he does know Dream Eater, which hits very heavy damage. Now for his Exetor, we go for Proxify, which we go for a double team, which I found out later on is pretty rubbish, but we still used it and he manages to miss us with Thunder a few times, but as soon as he hits, he takes us down in one hit. So we're going to go for a Tarantula to go for a Nightshade to attempt to finish it off. He's left with a little bit of health, a second Nightshade takes down his Exetor. So his final Pokemon now is Haunter. Those were the 2 main issues over, so we can now move to Grand Gaming Guild. They can actually hit the Haunters this time with Thunder Punches until he goes down. Eventually he does, and that was the end of that guy. That did provide us with a few problems. But anyway, with that said, we're now ready to face the 5th gym leader, Chuck. He's going to bring out a Primate for his first Pokemon as we go for Proxify. He's going to go for a Headbutt to hit some good damage, which also makes it flinch. I use another Headbutt and then another Headbutt eventually flinches him, and then a Sonic Boom will take that down as well. For Poliwrath, we switch over to a Tarantula, which we go for a Scary Face as we want to lower his speed. I keep using Poison Stings or Nightshade until we wake up. This is with a Dynamic Punch, which confuses us, so we're now asleep and confused. Eventually using Surf, I'm not sure a Tarantula is going to make it out of this. A second Surf will take him down. So we're now going to switch back to Trippy Trainer to use Self-Destruct to hit very heavy damage. And straight away, because we're faster than him, we can get a Thunder Punch in, and we've earned our 5th badge with Grand Gaming Guild, getting a level up as well. Now usually I'd like to train up a bit more before I take on Jasmine, but I thought, hey, why not? This team seems to be pretty good. So what you saw there was Grand Gaming Guild missing with the Dynamic Punch. This is very key that he doesn't miss, as it hits the most damage against the Magnemites. As you see there, half health and it's now confused. And it hits itself luckily. So we go for a Light Screen as he hits us with Thunderbolt, which nearly takes us down, but we get very lucky with a second Dynamic Punch, taking down the first Magnemite. We can now switch over to Trippy Trainer to use Self-Destruct on his second Magnemite, which should take that out almost. We move over to Proxify that knows Quick Attack, and that takes down his final Magnemite. So it's now time for his Steelix, which is the only one left that can be an issue, but we switch back over to Grand Gamer to use a Dynamic Punch, which was again very lucky that that would happen. He is now confused as well, and Light Screen wears off, so I go for an Ice Punch because I wasn't sure whether the Thunder Punch would work on this generation. I know it works on later generations, but I don't think it works on this one, which I do find out. I go for a Dynamic Punch that misses, but the second one hit, and then she uses her Hyper Potion, which was to be expected, but luckily she's still frozen, so I tried a Thunder Punch, which again, it didn't work, as that was on the latest generation when Thunder moves do work. Anyway, we go for a couple more Ice Punches, we get taken out. We then move over to Proxify, which we go for a Sonic Boom, which does good damage, but a Rock Throw does take him down. We then go for Nightshade as he misses with an Iron Tail, and we've earned our 6 badge. Apparently I forgot I did a little bit of a victory dance after this fight. Then we head over to the Lake of Rage, where Arantula decides to take on a fish. Anyway, Arantula uses a Nightshade, but gets hit with Thrash for very heavy damage, and then a second Thrash will take him down. So we go over to Trippy Trainer, we go for a Bide as he hits himself, and then he hits us with a Thrash. Thrash is all we need for us to be able to take down the shiny Gyarados. Then we follow Lance down to the Team Rocket's hidden base. Now this first male executive will provide us with no issues whatsoever. He brings out a Zubat, which goes down with 1 Thunder Punch from Grand Gaming Guild. So we're going to switch over to Arantula next to take on this Raticate with a Poison Sting, which does okay damage, as I don't think Nightshade actually hits normal types. So we just keep using Poison Stings eventually until Arantula gets taken out with a Hyper Fang. Then we move over to Trippy Trainer, which we go for Strength, which takes down the Raticate. Now for Coffin, which we will go for Proxify here to go for Sonic Boom, which hits alright damage. Then go for a Headbutt to do some good damage and a Quick Attack to finish it off. I think I was just testing out some moves for the later on Coffins that will be an issue. Then obviously Lance comes along as we break into the Electricity Power Room, and the Team Rocket members decide to stop us there. For a stronger female executive, she brings out Arbok. Then we go for Grand Gaming Guild. He uses Thunder Punch, which does good damage, so I just decided to use that. I used Dynamic Punch, which did nothing, but it did confuse it. It hits itself, and we finish it off with a Ice Punch. Now for the Morcrow, we switch over to Arantula to go for some Nightshades to hit some good damage, as this is Dark type, so we can actually use Nightshade on it. Again, we use another Nightshade, but Arantula was going to go down, so we decided to switch over to Proxify to go for a Quick Attack to finish off that Morcrow. Now for the Gloom, we decide to stick with Proxify, go for a Sonic Boom that hits some good damage. Again, Headbutt we use for some alright damage as Acid hits us. Eventually we take it down with Quick Attack. Now ready for Mahogany Town's Gym Leader Thrice. He's going to bring out a Seal first of all, so we switch to Grand Gaming Guild. Go for a Thunder Punch to hit some good damage. It also gets paralysed, so we're lucky there. Icy Wind isn't doing too much, so we're not worried. We go for another Thunder Punch, get hit with Aurora Beam. We go for a final Thunder Punch to take that down. We also gain another level up. Now for Dugong, we keep out Grand Gaming Guild as we get hit with another Aurora Beam, which did much more damage. But we managed to get our Light Scream in as we get taken out by a Headbutt. We now switch over to Trippy Trainer to go for a Rock Smash to lower down the Dugong's defense. We go for another Rock Smash as we wanted to lower it down again. This is with Aurora Beam, but we go for Strength to nearly take it out. It then uses Rest, but that's not too much of an issue as we get a few strengths in now. For Pizlo Wine, we switch over to Arantula to get a Scary Face in. We get hit with a Blizzard, which nearly takes us out. We lower down the speed, so we're now faster. A second Blizzard finishes off Arantula. So we then switch over back to Trippy Trainer just to use a Self-Destruct as I couldn't be bothered. And that was the end of Pizlo, and we've earned ourselves the 7th badge. Now for this Team Rocket member at the top of the radio station. He usually provides me with loads of issues when I do these runs, as he has 6 Coffins, or 5 Coffins, 1 Weezing, that all know Self-Destruct, and it's always annoying. Luckily, Grand Gaming Guild does some good damage with Thunder Punch, so we take down the first Coffin without little problems. Now we switch over to Trippy Trainer to use Strength, which can hit good damage. I also think it can tank one of the Self-Destructs, so that's why I like him out. But he does get poisoned, unfortunately, but he does take down the second Coffin. Now for the third Coffin, we are using him as a backup. We want to just use as much health as he can. Hits us with Sludge. If our health gets too low, we will just Self-Destruct. But again, luckily, I think we can take it out. And we'll go straight to use the Self-Destruct, but I don't think he has enough health to survive. Anyway, Weezing comes out, and I think we go for a Self-Destruct, but unfortunately, we get taken down by a Sludge. So we move over to Proxify, which we go for Sonic Boom, which seems to do good damage, as he hits us with a Smoke Screen. So we go for a Headbutt, and then it uses Explosion, which obviously takes Proxify down. But that's also his Weezing down, so he's only got 2 Coffins left, I believe. Arantula comes out to use good damage on Nightshade. A second Nightshade nearly finish him off. Hits us with a Tackle, we use a Poison Sting, and that's that Coffin. Now for his final Coffin, I'm not too worried about, as we have enough Pokemon left. and he also, if he uses self-destruct, that will just be quick. Switch over to Grand Gaming Guild, he hits us with tackle. I was expecting him to use a self-destruct, but he didn't. But anyway, that's the end of that tip. Then we head down to the basement where we bump into our rival. It brings out Golbat, which I thought maybe Grand Gaming Guild would do alright against, but unfortunately Golbat knows Wing Attack, which takes down Grand Gaming Guild in one hit. So we actually start off with Proxify and use Headbutts as we want the flinching. Wing Attack also does a lot of damage to him, but he has the Headbutt, which does flinching. So we take down the Golbat. Now it's time for Magnemite, which we switch over to a Tarantula to use some Nightshades. We get taken on by a Thunder Wave, which paralyzes us, but that's okay, as it doesn't do that too much damage with Thundershock. We eventually get our second Nightshade in to take down his Magnemite. Now it's time for his Haunter, which we switch over to Grand Gaming Guild, as we're going to use some Thunder Punches. He hits us with Shadow Punch, which is heavy damage. We get our Thunder Punch in and use his Curse, and a final Thunder Punch takes down his Haunter. And we can now switch over for his Sneevil to Trippy Trainer. We go for a Bide as we wanted him to use some attacks, which luckily uses Feint Attack, then he uses a Leer, and then he uses a Screech, and then we unleash a little bit of damage from the Feint Attack. He hits us with Quick Attack, but we go for a Strength. Time for his final Pokemon, Magnerum, which we switch back over to a Tarantula. We want to get a Scary Face in to lower his speed down so we then become faster. He hits us with a Body Slam, nearly taking us out. Luckily we get our Nightshade in, and then he finally takes on a Tarantula with a Body Slam. We switch back over to Trippy Trainer to use a Suicide attempt, which didn't actually take it out, so then we move over to Proximity to use Quick Attack, and that's the end of our rival there. Then head back up to the top of the radio tower on the other side to face the Team Rocket Executive Man again. He's going to bring out his Houndour. We go for a Tarantula. He hits us with Ember, which does really good damage and also burns us. We get a Nightshade in, but unfortunately get taken out by a second Ember. So we then head over to Proxify to go for a Headbutt that hits very good damage and takes him down. Now for his Coffin, we'll keep out Proxify. We go for a Headbutt. He hits us with Sludge and also poisons us. We go for a Sonic Boom that does some good damage. Hits us with Tackle as Poison does its thing. Another Headbutt unfortunately doesn't make it flinch. We go for a Quick Attack to finish that off, and we're left with very little health. We then decide to switch over to the Grand Gaming Guild, as I think he should be able to tank an Ember, which he does. We go for a Light Screen, but we also unfortunately get burnt. We then go for an Ice Punch, but we manage to tank that because of Light Screen, but then we get taken down by the burn. Now for the Trippy Trainer, we're going to go for an Explosion now, as it's much stronger, takes down the Houndoom, and that's the end of that guy. Now we can move straight on to Blackthorn City to go and face Claire, the final gym leader. She brings out her Dragonair. We go for a Dynamic Punch with Grand Gaming Guild, which luckily works and also confuses them. We then go for Ice Punch, as that's super effective, as we unfortunately get Thunder Waved and Paralyzed. Hits us with Slam, and we also get Paralyzed, but then he hits himself with Confusion. Finally get our final Ice Punch in to take the first Dragonair down. For the second one, we get hit with a Thunderbolt, which nearly takes us out. So we put our Light Screen on, misses with Slam. We luckily get one Ice Punch in. A second Slam misses, we get our second Ice Punch in. A third Slam misses, we get a Thunder Punch in. And then we get our Ice Punch in, as she just continuously misses with Slam. So that's 2 Dragonairs down. We're not doing too bad here. We switch over to Proxify as Light Screen unfortunately wears out. We then get paralyzed, and an Ice Beam takes us down unfortunately. We move back to Grand Gaming Guild to hopefully get a Light Screen on. She decides to switch over to her Kingdra, which we already know what we're going to do here. We just use an Explosion from Trippy Trainer. That Smoke Screen could have made us miss, but it didn't in this case, so we take that down. Now it's down to a Tarantula to take down her final Dragonair. We go for a Poison Sting. I was hoping for a Poison, didn't work. We get hit by Slam. We go for a Nightshade to do good damage. One more Nightshade should do it. We then head through Victory Road, and we bump into our rival just before the Elite Four. He brings out his Sneevil. We go with Proxify first. We use a Headbutt, which does good damage. A Wing Attack now will take that down. Now for his Golbat, we stick with Proxify, as unfortunately I don't think Grand Gaming Guild can take it out still, with Wing Attack being too heavy on us. So we go for some Headbutts, which luckily we get a critical and a flinch. Then we go for a Quick Attack, which luckily we don't hit ourselves with Confusion to take that down. Magneton comes out, so we switch over to Trippy Trainer to use Rock Smash, as that hits good damage. Also, it can lower its defense, which isn't too bad. Hits us with a few Thunder Shocks to do some okay damage. Eventually, we do Rock Smash it. Oh no, unfortunately, we get taken out, which was unfortunate. We switch over to a Tarantula, which we go for a Nightshade to finish off the Magneton, which was a little bit of a waste from the Trippy Trainer there, as we could have used an Explosion. Anyway, Haunter comes out, which uses Paralyze and a Mean Look, which isn't too good. Uses Confuse Ray, sorry. We then switch over to use our own Swagger to confuse it, but we get hit with a move. So we switch over to Grand Gaming Guild to go for a Thunder Punch or Ice Punch as it uses Curse to hit itself. And then we get our second move in as well to take that Haunter down. Now for Kadabra, we're going to switch over to Prox iv'e as we've got Wing Attack and Headbutt, which does good against Tuit. We go for 2 Headbutts to take down the Kadabra. And now for his final Pokemon Magnemite, we switch back over to Grand Gaming Guild as we're going to go for some Ice Punches, as that should do some good damage. He hits us with Poison Powder. He uses Future Sight. That was from the Kadabra, which hits us. We are poisoned as well. Body Slam will take us out, but it's only got a bit of health now. We now go for a Wing Attack to finish off the Magnemite and our rival. Okay, after that we did a very minimal training to go to the Elite Four. We're going to attempt this with the levels being around the same as the Elite Four members. Okay, so we start off with Prox iv'e as Wool brings out his X2. We go for Headbutts as we want it to flinch, as we can't tank more than 2 Psychics, but we do take it down with 2 Headbutts, 1 Wing Attack. Now for Jinx, that should go down in 1 Headbutt and 1 Wing Attack, but unfortunately we don't flinch it, so we then switch over to Trippy Trainer to go for Strength as she misses to finish off that Jinx. We also gain a level up there as well, a new move that I don't think is necessary. So this X2 here, we're going to have to go for Explosion as it hits us with Psychic, leaving us with a bit of health. Explosion will take down that X2. Okay, now we switch over to Grand Gaming Guild for the Slowbro. We have Thunder Punch here, but we go for Light Screen. He uses Curse. We now go for a Dynamic Punch to make it confused, and he hits himself, luckily. We now go for some Thunder Punches to hit some good damage as it hits itself continuously. Now, I don't think that Will really uses items here, so we're quite lucky. Otherwise, that could have been more of an issue. So his Slowbro goes down with a few Thunder Punches. Now for Exetor, we go for a Light Screen as he goes for Reflect, and then we'll go for Ice Punch as that does some good damage against the Leaf Psychic Pokemon. Eventually, we do take down the Exetor with our low-level team, and that's the end of Will. Now for Koga, he's poisoned, so we should be able to tank a little bit with some of our Pokemon here as well. He brings out his Arachnis. We go for Prox iv'e again, as it knows Headbutt and Wing Attack, which is super effective. We take that down with little effort. Now for Crobat, this is the main issue here, so we use Trippy Trainer with Explosion to take that out. Now that double team can obviously make it so our Explosion misses. This case, it doesn't, and we hit it. So we switch back over to Prox iv'e to go for Headbutt on the Venomoth as it hits us with Psychic, as obviously Wing Attack does good damage against bug Pokemon. That takes that down. Now for his Fortress, we move over to a Tarantula as we want to use a Scary Face, but he protects against, so we go for a Scary Face again and it fails, hits us with 2 Swifts. Eventually we get our Scary Face in, so we're now faster. We use Swagger, which is what we want him to hit himself for some good damage. We use Nightshade, and then he uses Swift to finish off a Tarantula. Unfortunately, we go to Prox iv'e to use Wing Attack to hit some okay damage, hits himself and luckily takes himself out, and we gain a level up there. Now for his Muck, we switch back over to Grand Gaming Guild as we use a Dynamic Punch to get the Confusion, which again, this is all luck as it's 50-50 on that one. But again, I prefer the luck as it does seem to work sometimes. Hits us with a Toxic as we got a Light Screen in. Now we're just going to go for Ice Punches as I think that's the most amount of damage as it does. Also has a chance to freeze. Unfortunately, Sludge Bomb does great damage to us and Poison takes us out. It's now down to Prox iv'e, which we go for Wing Attack. He uses Acid Armor. We go for another Wing Attack as Light Screen goes down. Luckily, we get a critical, and that was the end of Kyogre. Now, again, it's time for Bruno, which he isn't going to be too much of an issue as Prox iv'e knows Wing Attack, and his fighting types are weak to that. So he hits us with Quick Attack on Hitmontop. We go for Wing Attack, which does good damage. A second one will take that down. Now for his next Pokemon, Onyx, we switch over to Trippy Trainer, as again, I want to whittle it with Rock Smash, and if things get really bad, we'll use Explosion. He hits us with Rock Slide, which does do good damage and also makes us flinch, so we're going to have to use Explosion as we would have got taken out with the Sandstorm. Luckily, we do manage to take Onyx down with this as well. Now it's back to Prox iv'e for his Hitmonchamp, which again, Sandstorm at this point is doing some damage to us, which is annoying, but luckily, Wing Attack is very super effective. Sun Attack is wilting our health down, and it also takes down his Champ. Now for his Champ instead of his Hitmonchamp, we go for Dynamic Punch, which does confuse it, and it hits himself. We then go for Ice Punches. I think that does some good damage, but a Rock Slide will take us out. But I think we've got enough health left for Wing Attack to finish off the Machamp. Luckily, we do outspeed it as Prox iv'e has really good speed. For Hitmonlee, it's weaker than the Hitmonchan, so that goes down with 1 Wing Attack. And we've defeated Bruno. Everything's going pretty well at the moment. With Karen, again, there wasn't too many issues with Karen either, as I figured out the best thing to use was Grand Gaming Guild, the Dynamic Punch, so we obviously had to use a few attempts before that would hit first. Then we get our Light Screen in, we go for another Dynamic Punch, which luckily hits it, Then she hits herself. We then go for ice punches to try and whittle the health down, and she hits herself for a third time. Eventually, she does get a Confuse Ray on, but we will need to put another light screen on as it's about to run out. So we put that on, and she hits us with Feint Attack. She's doing a bit of damage against us now as we did get confused, but we need that light screen on for a reason. We take down her Umbreon, and it's now time for a Houndoom. This is the reason we needed. It's so we could use Proxiphy's Affection, as we also learned that on that as well, because I think I was having some issues with this Houndoom, as Flamethrower does take you out. So luckily, with being in love and having flinches as well, and luckily we've got 3 flinches in a row there before she heals up. We then go for a Wing Attack to find out that that does more damage. So we go for 2 Wing Attacks, and luckily she falls in love with us, so our final Headbutt takes down the Houndoom. Now it's time for Gengar, so we switch over to Arantula, as he will probably do the best there. We go for a Swagger here, but unfortunately we get paralysed by Look. He then uses Curse, which isn't too much of an issue. We go for Nightshade, and then we obviously get hit by Curse. A second Nightshade takes down the Gengar, and for the final 2 Pokemon, I think she's going to bring out, a Vileplume. So we switch over to Grand Gaming Guild as we have Ice Punch. We go for Light Screen, as I'm not sure what damage the Petal Dance will do. But anyway, Ice Punch is super effective, and it also has a chance to freeze, so I like using it. So we keep going for the Ice Punches, which she keeps using Petal Dance, as it obviously trapped her in and it doesn't do a lot of damage. Eventually, we get Spored as well, so we're now paralysed, but she hits herself, and that's the end of Vileplume. So for Murkrow, her final Pokemon, we go for another Light Screen, as again, I'm not sure what would happen, but unfortunately we get paralysed, so we now switch out, but she uses Pursuit, which takes us out. We go for an Explosion, as I just thought, let's end this, and that's the end of a Murkrow, and we've taken down Karen as well. Now, unfortunately for Lance, we had a few issues with the current levels we couldn't really get past his dragons, and Flinch wasn't working, and I just thought maybe a couple more levels would do it, and a slightly different strategy. So yeah, that's what we do. Eventually, as you can see here, I'm just showing you that we get taken out by 1 Hyper Beam as well, so a couple more levels on Grand Gaming Guild would probably be beneficial. Eventually Arantula gets taken out as well with a Twister. So anyway, we then have to do all the Elite Four a few times again to train up, and then we eventually make it back to Lance. So here we go for Agility, as I found that was good, and we also need a second Agility as well, but I go for the first Agility for his Gyarados to hit him. We go for the second Agility, and that is so we are now faster than his Aerodactyl. We then go for a Nightshade to do good damage, a Leech Life just to finish off that Gyarados. Now it's time for his Aerodactyl. So obviously we keep out Arantula, and then we go for a Swagger, and we're just hoping that he hits himself. And in this case he hits himself once. We go for a Nightshade, and if he hits himself again twice, that is lucky, and he takes himself out. So that is good. Now for his Charizard, which we keep Arantula out as well because he outspeeds it, we go for Swagger again. He manages to hit himself, so Arantula's getting very jammy look at the moment. And then we go for a Nightshade. He then hits himself again, and we go for another Nightshade. Now this wasn't just as easy as it looks. This attempt was after a couple of hours of trying, and I also thought to myself it looked very jammy, but it was something I was just going to keep. Anyway, we switch out to Trippy Trainer for his level 50 Dragonite to use an Explosion to take that down in 1 hit, luckily. I wasn't sure if that was going to work. Anyway, we switch over to Arantula for his first level 47 Dragonite. We go for Swagger again, but this time we don't outspeed it. We then go for Nightshade. Luckily he hits himself again. For some reason, Arantula's Swagger on this attempt just seemed to be awesome, and they just kept seeming to hit themselves. So anyway, eventually hit himself again, and Nightshade takes down that. Now for his other Dragonite, which hits us with a Hyper Beam. I thought Arantula's luck was going to end here. We managed to get our struggle in. We then go for an Agility, as he, guess what? He hits himself again. We go for a Leech Life, and then we go for another Leech Life, but he hits us with a Hyper Beam, which isn't a problem because he now has to recharge, so we get a free Ice Punch in. I did think maybe he would use a full restore here, but he doesn't. He just hits himself, and that's the end of Lance. We've managed to do the first part of the game with, to be honest, not all level 50s. I thought I was going to have to do a bit more training up, but I didn't give in, and I managed to get a pretty jammy win there on Lance. Now I'm very happy to be entering this team into the Hall of Fame. I was for a minute there thinking I was going to have to do a lot more training. Anyway, if you're wondering where I got the names for this challenge, they're actually people that have either supported me on Twitter or my Discord. So thanks for that, guys. And if you want to join and have a chance for maybe my future challenges to be mentioned, then you know what to do. Like, subscribe, or comment. But we're only halfway through the challenge. Let's continue on to Kanto. First things first, we head over to the name changer in Lavender Town to get this little issue sorted. Tippy Trainer is no more, it's to his actual name, Trippy Trainer Trey. Like I said, all links to all these YouTubers will be in description below. So anyway, we then head to go and face our first gym leader in this area, which will be Erica, as I want her move Giga Drain, as I've got plans for that. Anyway, she brings out Tangela, we bring out Grand Gaming Guild. Ice Punch hits heavy damage as she uses Sleep Powder to make us asleep, unfortunately, but she uses Giga Drain, which doesn't do a lot against our bug type Pokemon. We wake up and a second Ice Punch will take that down. Now for a victory bell, we will move across to Arantula as we go for a Psychic, as I figure that will do heavy damage as well. I think she used Sunny Day there as well, which I didn't notice at first, but it isn't going to be too much of an issue for us right at this moment. A second Psychic will take that down, and then she's going to bring out Blossom, so we are going to throw over to Trippy Trainer, which she hits us with a Solar Beam as of that Sunny Day doing good damage. We'll go for Strength, which hits okay. The second Solar Beam hits us there. We go for Strength again. Luckily, the Sunny Day runs out, so her Solar Beam charges up, and we get our final Strength in to take that down. For a final Pokemon, we switch over to Proxify to go for a Wing Attack, which ends that in one hit, and we get our first badge in this region, and we also gain a new move as well. So now for Sabrina, which I thought maybe would provide us with some issues being Psychic, but she brings out Espeon, and we go for a Headbutt, which doesn't actually flinch. She hits us with Sand Attack, we go for another Headbutt which does flinch, and a Quick Attack takes Espeon out with little effect there. But I didn't actually get to see how much the Psychic damage would have done, which would have been handy for our later battle. Anyway, we go for a Light Screen on our Alakazam. Psychic doesn't do a lot against us. We get our Dynamic Punch in, which I thought would do a bit more damage, but it doesn't. We then go and hit with a Thunder Punch. Psychic hits us, which didn't do that much either. Luckily, it hits herself. We go for another Thunder Punch. I think maybe Ice Punch might have been better, so I switch it up. But it's still not doing that good. Luckily, she is hitting herself as we are really trying to figure out what would be the best combination, but we actually get taken out with a Psychic, unfortunately. We switch over to Proxify again to go for a Wing Attack, which I thought would do more damage, but I forgot about the Reflect. But anyway, a Quick Attack will finish that Alakazam off. Now for Mr. Mime, we're going to switch over to Trippy Trainer for, eventually. Light Screen wears off as Psychic hits heavy damage. We go for a Strength, which I thought would almost take it out, but it didn't do a lot. I'm not sure if the Reflect was still on, but we had a little bit of a muck there. So we go over to Arantula now, which he hits us with one Psychic to take us down. Back to Proxify to use a Headbutt. Luckily, the Psychic doesn't take us out. We're left with 19 HP as a Wing Attack finally takes down Sabrina. Now we head over to Fuchsia City to take on Jasmine. She's the weakest in this region. Anyway, she brings out Crobat, we go for Proxify. Headbutt hits very good damage. Screech lowers our defense, then we use a Wing Attack to finish off the Crobat. Now for Weezing, we switch over to Grand Gaming Guild, as we want to use a couple of Ice Punches to see how much damage that would do. She hits us with Toxic, which will be an issue if we stay in this battle for too long. Ice Punch again does good damage, uses a Smog, but we take down the Weezing there. Now for the second Weezing, we're going to obviously switch out Grand Gaming Guild and go for Strength with Trippy Trainer. That hits some good damage, but we get Toxic there as well. We go for a second Strength, nearly finishing it off. Sludge Bomb hits us for some really little damage, and a final Strength will take that Weezing down as well. For Venomoth, we'll switch back over to a Rantula. We then go for a Swagger as she used Agility. We then go for a Nightshade as she uses Double Team. And then she uses the Psychic to hit good damage against us. We go for another Nightshade, which nearly takes it down. Psychic unfortunately takes a Rantula out, so then we go to Proxify for a Quick Attack that misses. Because of that Double Team, a second Quick Attack will take down the Venomoth. Now for Arachnos, we go for a Wing Attack, which should take that down in one hit. That's the end of Jasmine. Now we can move over to do Misty after we disturb their date. I chose to do Misty instead of Lieutenant Surge, as Lieutenant Surge is electric and that is super effective against our bug type, so I was a little worried against him, so I left him till last. Anyway, we now have Trippy Trainer with Giga Drain, so we decide to use that on her Golduck, which is doing pretty good and heals us back up. Now it's time for her Quaside, which we keep out. Trippy Trainer's use an Explosion for to take that out, so that's 2 Pokemon down, and we've still got 3. So we switch over to Grand Gaming Guild to go for Light Screen. She uses Perishing Song, unfortunately. We go for Thunder Punches because I thought if I could kill it fast enough and switch him out, he would survive. But I don't think that's going to be the case, as she hits us with Blizzard, and we're pretty much on par at the moment. And I think actually she takes Grand Gaming Dime out with a Blizzard. We switch over to Proxify as she dies from the Perishing Song. Then we go over to Arantula for her Star on me, as it's part Psychic as well. I thought maybe I would be able to do a bit of good damage against it. We go for a Swagger and it hits itself. We go for Psychic. Luckily we don't hit ourselves, and it turns out that Psychic's not very good. And then we go for a Nightshade as she hits us with Surf, and Surf takes a Tarantula down, so it's all down to Proximity again. Go for Wing Attack, and that is the end of Misty. Okay, finally on to Vermilion City to go and face Lieutenant Surge. My worries are about to come true. Only joking. Anyway, Grand Gaming Guild comes out and he manages to get himself a light screen in as we outspeed it. Luckily he misses with Thunder, but he does hit us with a Thunderous Wave. And then hits us with the Thunder, which doesn't do as much damage as I thought this time, as we train up a little bit. A second Thunder nearly taking us out. We eventually take him down with Ice Punch. We then keep out Grand Gaming Guild as we go for a Dynamic Punch. Luckily he misses with Zap Cannon as it's got just as rubbish accuracy as us, but we managed to hit. His second Zap Cannon takes us down. So we move over to Trippy Trainer to go for a Strength to finish that Magneton off. Now for his Electrode that we go for just Strengths for, because it just seems to be fitting, as he uses Double Team which misses, go for a Swift that doesn't do a lot, and then the Strength takes down his first Electrode. His second Electrode goes for the same tactic with Double Team, but we use Strength which is a critical and finishes that off. So my worries at the moment aren't really happening, but he does have this Electro Buzz which I think can hit heavy damage. We go for a Wing Attack with Proximity to see how much damage that does. He misses with Thunder, so we go for a Headbutt. But unfortunately the second Thunder takes out Proximity in one hit. Tarantula will come along to go for a Nightshade, but he uses a Hyper Potion, the little jammy guy. We go for Swagger and he doesn't actually hit himself, he hits us with a Thunder which will nearly take a Tarantula out. We go for Nightshade which does good damage, and then another Thunder will finish off a Tarantula. So it's back to Trippy Trainer where a Thunder hits him, nearly taking him out, and we get paralysed. But luckily we get our Strength in, so as you can see that was the little bit of the worry there. On the outskirts of Vermilion City, Grand Gaming Guild mistaken this fat Buddha for a tree. But anyway, he goes for a Light Screen and then a Dynamic Punch, but gets taken out by 2 rollouts. So we switch over to Trippy Trainer to go for an Explosion to do some really good damage. In fact, it takes the Snorlax down. Anyway, we then head over to Mount Moon to find our rivals snooping around, and he brings out his Sneevil. So we go for Proximity, which we go for a Headbutt, which does good damage and flinches, so a second Headbutt will take that down. Now for his Gold Bat, we decide to use Grand Gaming Guild to see if his Thunder Punches will do the job. One Thunder Punch hits, which does damage. A Confuse Ray hits us, and we hit ourselves unfortunately. Wing Attack also doing really good damage, as you can see the worry there in the past. And then finally our Thunder Punch will take that down. Now for his Magneton, we go for a Dynamic Punch. Unfortunately we hit ourselves, and then a Thunder Shock finishes off Grand Gaming Guild. So we move over to the Trippy Trainer to go for Rock Smashes, as that seems to be good on that at the moment, as he's hitting us with Thunder Shock, and his defense is lowering, so we're doing a bit more damage with the Rock Smashes. Eventually we get a critical and take that down. Now for his Gengar, we switch over to a Tarantula, as we will use some Psychics on that, I can imagine. After we use a Swagger, we get Confuse Ray, unfortunately. We do the same back, and then we go for a Psychic. He hits himself, but we get our Psychic in. Very jammy, Tarantula taking that down in one hit. Now for his Alakazam, we're going to go to Proximity, as we're going to use some Headbutts or Wing Attacks to do some good damage against that. Nearly takes him out as he hits us with Psychic. We go for a Quick Attack to finish off the Alakazam. Now it's for her final Pokemon, a Megarum. So we switch over to Tarantula to get in a Agility, but unfortunately we get Body Slammed and Paralysed. So we decide just to go on the attack with Psychic, which hits okay damage, so I then decide to go for a Swagger, as I know I can tank some of those Body Slams. We then go back to Psychic as it hits itself, but we get paralysed, and then one Body Slam takes us out. Now it's time for Trippy Trainer, which I thought maybe I should have just used a Explosion for, but Strength does good damage, but then we get taken out. Down to Proximity again, one more Wing Attack takes down the Megarum, and that's the end of our rival. So it's now on to Brock in Pewter City, but he shouldn't be too much of an issue, as Trippy Trainer has Giga Drain. But we decided to use the Grand Gaming Guild, as I forgot he was out first. Then we switch over to Trippy Trainer to go for the Giga Drains, which takes down the Graveler in one, obviously. Onyx will go down in one Giga Drain as well once he uses his Sandstorm, as he seems to outspeed us even at this level. Now for his Rhyhorn as well, I believe he goes down in one Giga Drain. And then for his Omastar, again being double negative to a grass move, being Water and Rock, the Giga Drain will take that down in one hit. His final Pokemon, Kabutops, I think I switch out to a Tarantula to get some XP. As you know, I like to share the XP around as and when I can. He gets hit with a Surf, so things aren't looking too good. We use a Psychic, which hits heavy damage as Sandstorm's doing its thing. Another Surf, nearly taking a Tarantula out. Luckily, our Psychic finishes off Brock. Now this battle in Viridian City is optional. It's just a trainer at the bottom of the center. I decided to do it as I'm going to need some XP. In fact, I used this trainer a few times for my training up for blue and also for red. Anyway, Proxify will take that down with a couple of wing attacks. Typhlosion, again, we're just going to use Proxify to hit some good damage, as Fire will nearly take him out. And then obviously he hits us with a quick attack. So now we're going to switch over to Grand Gaming Guild to go for a light screen, as I thought that would protect us from his fire wheels, but he's faster than us and gets a fire wheel in. His second fire wheel nearly taking us out. Luckily we get our dynamic punch in. We then go for some thunder punches as he hits himself, and eventually he takes us out with a fire wheel, unfortunately. But we then head over to Trippy Trainer to get his XP when he hits himself. Now for his Fraligator, which we will just keep Trippy Trainer out as we've got Giga Drain, so we'll just use that until the Fraligator gets down, and that's some good XP there. The next place we'll be heading over will be the Cinnabar Isles, where we met Blue, and then obviously he goes back off to his gym, and then we'll head to go and find the abandoned cave where basically there we are there. Blaine is now the new gym leader of it. Well, Blaine starting off with his Macargo, we go for a Ranchler. We then go for Agility to be faster than it, as we already were. I didn't know though. We then go for a Nightshade to see how much damage that does. Pretty good as he uses Curse. So we go for a second Nightshade, and that takes down his Pokemon. Now for his Magma, we keep out a Ranchler as we still outspeed it. So we go for Nightshade. Fire Punch dealing very heavy damage. We then go for a Psychic, which nearly takes him out. Second Fire Punch takes a Ranchler down. So now it's time for Proxify. One Headbutt will take that down. And now for his Rapidash, which I think we still outspeed. So yeah, we use a Headbutt. He flinches luckily. A second Headbutt. He misses with Fire Blast, but then heals up with a Max Potion. So now we get 2 Headbutts in, which doesn't make him flinch. He hits us with Fire Blast, which I believe takes us down. He's only got a little bit of health now, so we switch over to Grand Gaming Guild. He used his Fury attack. Luckily it wasn't a Fire Blast, as I think that would have taken us down. We use Light Screen, so his Fire Blast there doesn't actually hit us, as Ice Punch didn't do as much damage as I thought it was going to do. His second Fire Blast takes down Grand Gaming Guild. Now for Trippy Trainer, which we can't use Explosion for, as we would technically lose. We use a Strength, and that's the end of Blaine, and we've earned our 7th badge in this region. Now it's time for Blue. Now Blue, I did attempt at the same levels of 57, but we just weren't strong enough to take him on. So I had to be, I had to train up a few more levels. It took me a couple of days, and then I found that Proxify was the best against the Pidgeot. And then at that point, again, as I don't like to take my time when I come to a challenging battle, I then couldn't remember which Pokemon I needed to use, and it was Grand Gaming Guild, and it's because I need the Light Screen, and then we go for Trippy Trainer. I was going to go for Trippy Trainer first, which is why I hesitated, and then continued on, and then we go for Trippy Trainer to use Hidden Power, which I found was super effective and takes that down in 1. Now for his Arcanine, which is why we needed the Light Screen on, so we can get our Explosion in to take that out. Proxify comes out for his Gyarados, which again, we can take him out, but it's good if we can get some flinches on, which you saw there. He uses a full restore halfway through, which I'm not too bothered about, as we've got a critical, and then the second Headbutt makes him flinch. So he's now low enough for us to do a wing attack, and that's the end of him. He's only got 2 more Pokemon left, so I now think to myself, what would be the best Pokemon out of these 2, which I go for a Ranchula, because I thought maybe Psychic would do some good damage, but again, I forgot that Exetor was Psychic as well. Anyway, we go for our Swagger, and we go for our Agility as he hits us with Egg Bomb, which nearly takes us out. Leechy doing its thing, so I just think, okay, we're going to have to use 1 Nightshade, then Leechy takes us out. So we've only got Proxify left, which Wing Attack does very good damage against, and then luckily he hits himself with a Confusion. So now it's just down to his final Alakazam, which we go for Wing Attack, and then he hits us with Psychic, which hits very good damage. Then we go for another Wing Attack, which will take that Alakazam down, and that was the end of Blue. And that was quite a hard battle, but we eventually found the best strategy to take him out. Now for Red was a whole nother story. I couldn't do it at the current levels. I did try, and I did try through all the levels, 2 levels after each one, and I found that I had to get myself to at least level 72 before I could even get there. So as you saw with a Ranchler, what you want to do is take a bit of his health down, and then use Swagger, and then switch over to Proxify, and luckily he hit himself. Now here I just had to keep spamming Headbutt, which I did, and on this attempt, which was very, very rare, we managed to get 3 flinches. Also, it was a Sunday, so I learnt the new move Return, and we managed to take down his Charizard. Now for his Blastoise, I was thinking we'll go to Grand Gaming Guild, as we have Light Screen to protect against the Surf, and then we'll use Thunder Punch, hoping that will do some good damage. But he also knows Blizzard as well, so Light Screen's good for that, as we're able to tank that Blizzard, and then another Thunder Punch doing some good damage. A Blizzard hit against us, nearly taking us out. We get a Thunder Punch in, he goes for another Blizzard, misses, so we have a final Thunder Punch take down his Blastoise. Now it's time for his Snorlax, which I was thinking what would be the best opponent against this one. We go for Trippy Trainer, as I remembered that we could take it out with an explosion. We go for a Hidden Power to whittle some health down, and it didn't do a lot at all. We then go for a Strength to see how much damage that would do, and that doesn't do too much damage, but surely it should be enough as we're similar levels. So we go for an explosion, and that takes down his Snorlax. Now obviously I don't know what Pokemon's coming out, so we just go for a Ranchula, as it seems a safe bet, 50-50. And then he brings out his Venusaur, which is what we wanted. He goes for Solar Beam, so we managed to get our Swagger in, but he hits us with Solar Beam, which doesn't do too much damage. We go for Agility and then a Psychic, because we're now faster than it as well. He then uses Sunny Day, which means he can now use his Solar Beams freely, but that's not too much of an issue, as he hits himself, as a Ranchula just seems to be spammy as hell with that Swagger. Anyway, we eventually take down Venusaur, and it's now time for his Espeon, which I think I used against Sabrina's. Espeon we used Proximity is actually really tanky against Psychic, so that's the end of Red, and we managed to do it with this team. If you're wondering what happened to the team after this challenge, Arantula went to the shop to buy bread for his jam. Grand Gaming Guild had to go to rehab in order to help get over his unhealthy obsession with trees. Trippy Trainer began working in a waste disposal company, and no one knows what happened to Proxivy, as every time someone tried to get close to him, they flinched. As always, thanks for watching, don't forget to like and share, and to click on subscribe for new content. Also, join me on Twitter at KaiGenix1 for polls and updates. Become a member to my Discord to help build an active community, or simply comment below. That's all from me, so I'll catch you guys on the next one.